Okay, folks, we're going to get going. Give me a sound check if you would, just to make sure. We had issues with the sound last week. I like how bullish everybody is. Must be a short, especially Peter Ulides. I like fading Peter. So, are we hearing anything, guys? Okay. Yeah, I'll try not to yell because we did have some issues last week. So we'll get going here in a minute. Uh, Sorry about last night. I ate some junk at about 6 o'clock last night. My stomach was so screwed up by the time I usually do the video, I couldn't even function. So I apologize for that. It was kind of disappointing. I had a lot to say, but we'll do it now. So, um, yeah. Yeah, listen, I know Peter Ulides. We worked together many, many years ago back in the 80s. So you know, it's always fun to. You have to realize that I spent a lot of years on trading floors, so we were always trolling each other, walking around. This is long before the world of Twitter. Anyway, so a couple things, just some house cleaning here that I want to go through and just talk about a couple things that I've introduced you folks to in the last couple of days. We're going to go through the grid that I've been putting out there for the last several days. That used to be a regular staple of mine, and these numbers are really, really powerful. And we're working on a couple of things um, that are going to get the ability for you folks to get access to some of these numbers on virtually any market you can dream up. I've been working with another firm, so we'll see how all that goes. We don't have any big news yet, but it's working. So those numbers that I put out every day are pretty significant in that. Let me explain a little bit more. I did a video on it. Looks like I think last time I looked, there's maybe a little bit over 1,000 views on that video. But those of you that are trading, there's a lot of power out of these numbers uh, to be used as pivots, as periods. I was on Twitter this morning. Unfortunately, I got the reversal I was looking for came off of that R3 number, and I'll bring all these up in a minute. But this is just classic stuff where the market gets, you look for reversals from that level. So it was a nice reversal. Right, the high so far today on the futures was 29.75.75. R3 was 77. So I'll bring all this up, but we're going to go through, and I want you to understand just a little bit more about what these numbers are. And there's a whole lot of other stuff that I will continue to reveal to you. The chart that's on the screen right now is is showing you the bands. So they're similar. I know John Bollinger pretty well. He used to be on the board of a company that I was associated with, and I gave him a hard time about Bollinger Bands because they're really just standard deviation lines, and he renamed them to make them his, and he's obviously been pretty popular. So John's a good guy, all that kind of stuff. But these are similar. These lines are similar to Bollinger Bands in that they are based on volatility, but there's a different metric here, and there's something much more dynamic than Bollinger Bands in that we have multiple levels within the range. So if you look at the outside bands of this thing, you see the orange line and the red line. And what these are telling us, these are the extremes. And it was interesting because somebody did a LOL because 2 days ago we got this where we closed above the extreme, and that triggers an event, and I talked about that in the video. But these bands, what they're doing is setting up the range, and you can see for the most part we stay within those ranges. You'll see occasionally where the market will start to break above or below those things, and those are usually extremes and tell you about a reversal. So very very similar to John's work. Only difference is um, hopefully you can see these things depending on the device you're on, but there is there's dots. So I'm going to bring up a data window here so you can see these things. So the numbers for today you can see is the high is 29.75. R3 was 29.77. We haven't had to contend with any of the support numbers today. The machines have been running this market big time this morning. They were just relentless, and then we got tired around that. Traded sideways in that 68 to 75 range, but mostly around 72 to 67. It just kind of grounded out. Then it broke down. But so this is a daily graph here, and we can run these numbers on any basis. We can run these on an hourly basis. We can run them on on 5 minute. So I have a question for everybody. Is anybody out there using TradeStation at all? I'm just kind of curious on how many TradeStation users we have. My guess is a lot of Thinkorswim and some other folks. But if you wouldn't mind, just tell me what platforms you guys are on. It would be really helpful. There is some ideas that I have that I would like to put some of these indicators out on the stuff of the on some of these other platforms. But but all of these bands are doing is telling us what the expected ranges are in any given day, in any given period. And I've talked about this in the video, but I just want to unpack it just a little bit more. As what they're not standard deviation lines. What they are is is taking the volatility or the range for the last 5 days and getting an average of the last 5 days, and then it projects out a Fibonacci sequence. And let me just see if I might be able to, I think I might be able to show you something here. Let's do this on screen so you can just see what this looks like. Because I know there's been a lot of interest, a lot of talk and chatter on the channel, so I just want to cover this for a few more minutes. Let me just bring up on the rangefinder. I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see this. But this is actually the 3-day look back volatility. I said 5, but it's 3, and it takes these numbers and calculates out 0.23, 0.5, 0.76, and a 1. So it basically takes whatever the volatility is for the previous day. And hey, thanks for the super chat, you guys. I didn't know what those were last week, so I apologize for that. So Wacky Warrior, thank you, man. I appreciate you supporting the channel. That's really cool. But these bandwidth stuff that's going on here, what we're looking at here is this range. So it takes that 5-day range and projects out the 3-day average range, and it adds it on to yesterday's close. And there's some other things I'll teach you about these things as I go in. But right now it shows that it'll take the average 3-day range, add it to yesterday's close, and that's the extreme. So what it's saying is that the markets tend to trade within those ranges. So it subtracts it from the yesterday's close and comes whatever that average is, and it adds it, and then it does Fibonacci numbers in between. So that's where it comes up with the ranges. So this gives you a lot more vision. The problem I always had with I'm picking on John Bollinger, and I'm not really picking on him. The problem I had with Bollinger Bands is trying to figure out what to do when it's in these big, wide volatility range. And you can see that the same thing happens here. Where you see where the volatility, it expands out and it gets kind of in the Bollinger Bands. They'll get a bubble, and this thing will get like bigger zigzag type formations. And I'm going to, this is a big part of my work, especially for day trading. Folks, this is like really serious. And at some stage, I don't know if I'm going to be able to introduce you to what I call the WaveTech webs or not, but we'll just see if I can find a way to show you some of this stuff, because that stuff is just, I show you that, especially if you're a day trader or doing any kind of short-term trading. You're going to love me like you never thought you would. But the bottom line is these ranges are really accurate, but we also have those in-between points that we can go. And I'm just going to pick a random day here just to look at these things. So here was on the 20th, on 4/2, the 20th. Let's just look and see. High was 525. R2 was 512. The low was 424. And we had 417, support 1. So I just want to pick a couple random days here. Here's 330. We had a high of 621. R2 was 612, so it went a little bit above. And then on the downside, we had a low of 445, and it was 436. So we kind of traded within these numbers, but you're going to see some exact hits on some of these numbers. But what you want to watch for is utilizing 5-minute, 15-minute charts and looking for a reversal pattern. And unfortunately, I was on Twitter early this morning, just couldn't. I had to get ready to come into the office, so I missed out on the reversal. But it was definitely a nice trade off of those upper numbers right now. So anyway, let's take a quick look at what's going on here. PPMs are starting to accelerate, 0.46 again on PPM1 on the daily S&P, 0.39 and 0.48. So these things are all in these big uptrends right now. And what we're seeing here is, I talked a couple videos ago, I guess Monday night, I talked about the 200-day being challenged. Here we are sitting here at the 200-day moving average, and markets are accelerating, so they're trying to punch this thing out. What was it? 2 days ago, it was the vaccine that pushed the market higher. I don't know what they're running on today, but the algorithms are picking up stories and going from it. Now this is going to be interesting, because we're at that point in time where if we don't take out this 200-day moving average, we're going to really see some potential for a big reversal here. And this is critical. The time is now. It's not next week. We could stay. You can see the projected ranges right now for with the grid here. I just want to bring that back up. 29.95 is the top end, 28.41, and we can see the last couple of days we've been trading within these ranges. So when these things get flat like this, we've been flat since going back to the 13th. We've been just kind of hovering right below this 200-day moving average, and so we'll see if we can break through this. We still have no new position, but I can tell you that we're very close to triggering a new another buy signal on this thing. So while I was joking with the Peter Ullides thing, the way that my work works, I try not to get too far ahead of things, especially when it comes to trading. Our intermediate models are still neutral. Our short-term models are neutral at the moment, and I think rightfully so. We're just kind of grinding out, although now we're seeing some acceleration across the board here in these PPMs. So we're pretty close. If we manage to close stronger today, we're going to be ready to roll again and possibly get another buy signal, projecting this thing higher. So as crazy as everything seems out there in the real world, the markets are operating on a different metric, which is, that markets are going to come back. They're running on news. I'm kind of having a flashback to. I'm having a flashback to maybe 2011 European crisis, when the central banks all bailed in and boosted the market. I think in 2 weeks' time, markets changed values within almost like 12% in 14 days. There was that concerted effort. If those of you have been trading for a while, you remember this. And so we're kind of have the same kind of time. It wouldn't seem that it would be bullish, but I forget which Fed official came out this morning and said, well, it looks like they're going to need money for the state. So they're basically buying everything. They're buying state budgets. They're buying bonds. They're buying mortgages. They're just buying everything. So as long as the markets believe that this is going to work, it'll work. Hey, listen, I'm an American. I want to see them engineer a bottom. I don't want to see us go into a I don't want to see us go into depression. Who would want that, right? So yeah, I'm all for a rally here and continuation. Yeah, I see somebody making a comment on Madeira. I want to cover that a little bit as well. I'm looking. Hey, if the guy who is that? Soulmate. Would you give? What's the symbol on that thing? Hey Jay, if you can get that, that would be awesome. It's Madeira. So anyway, all of this stuff is starting to turn positive. Let's take a look at the intermediate charts here, just to kind of get going. Now, I talked. It was funny because I probably got a couple thousand fewer views on the video I did the other day, and I talked about we're range bound. This is what I'm talking about, so you folks can start to understand my work. I'm really glad that I brought you in to with the grid and the rangefinder, because hey, thanks for the symbol. But you can see here, look at this bands where we're trading. This is an absolute sideways pattern. The thing that's happening here now, though, is that the weekly patterns are really starting to explode, where we're seeing PPM1, you can see over here, is at, let me see if I can draw a few things here. Yeah, you can see PPM1 is just exploding up, which tells us that this is the 10-period moving average. When that starts to turn up, this is also, I'll show you in a minute, the 40-day moving average I talked about in the last couple of weeks was starting to show a lot of underlying strength, was going to be the support line in this market. And, so we're seeing some underlying support coming in 2807, and that's moving up every week. But this is what I want to show you here, is this basic band here. This is your trading range. Now, it still hasn't broken out of this range. We could still work this range for a little bit longer. PPM2 is turning up. PPM3 is turning up. We're probably maybe 2 weeks, depending on where prices go, from starting to get our intermediate models to start to kick in. Right now, they're not showing a lot of um, uh, they're, I think, 18% long. But we start to get back above these levels, that's going to be substantial. Now, we still have PPM2 far left side over here, minus 4.2, which tells us there's a fair amount of resistance right where we're trading now, 29.62. That's exactly where this thing is, and we're still looking at the futures here. But this range, this is why Bob Kendall says we're in this trading range. People go, oh, we're going straight up. Well, maybe we are, but for right now, we've been locked in this range now for about 4 weeks. Maybe we're going to break out of it. We're starting to see some signs, and we'll see. We'll just see. And what we're waiting for, since we follow 16,500 stocks in our database, we're waiting to see some traction come in. It's waiting to see some of the models start to come in on intermediate level, and then then you'll hear me in the super bull camp and starting to talk about potential for new highs. You know, I you guys know, you see me on the channel, right? I'm an old dude. I've been around for a long time, and I will tell you, I've never seen anything like this. You know, where the economic backdrop is so bad, but the but is, and it's the Fed, it's the governments, everybody's bailing this thing out. So I said this going back 2 months ago, maybe 2.5 months now. We've been having so much fun with this stuff. But what's really happening here is they're engineering a bottom. We don't know what any economy is going to look like after they throw all this debt and money. And I got to bring up Powell, Fed Chairman Powell. He keeps saying something, and you folks pay attention to this. He keeps saying, we're a lender. We're a lender. We don't print money. We lend. Well, when you lend money, you do print money, and he keeps putting that line all the time out there. So they are printing, lending, whatever you want to call it. They've made a commitment to literally bail out everything. You know, you've got states upside down, California, Illinois. You can go down a whole list of states that are upside down. Not to mention, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I did a special report on the pension plans, especially the state pension plans. Many of these are way, way underfunded and way upside down. So I guess what we're living in is a time where folks are going to be the best way to put it, I guess, they're willing to just bail out and pay for everything. And so I had a video a couple months ago, or probably 6-8 weeks ago, called unintended socialism. So this is where we find ourselves with the markets today. So let's go on. I'm going to do some Bitcoin. I'm going to do Bitcoin's been frozen, but I want to go through. We'll do Tesla, do some other stuff, but let's do Madeira. Let's put that thing up here. So this is interesting. So this is a weekly chart, and this is huge uptrend, to say the least. I want to switch this over to a daily graph. And this is one of the things I talked about. It closed the other day in that spike. It closed above the extreme line, sharply above it. And usually you'll get 2 to 3 days down. You see this close above, this thing just slid back. Of course, they announced that they're going to be trying to raise $1 billion in an offering, so that'll add some stock to the mix. But you can see that this is one of those classic trades where usually if you get a close above that number, it's a perfect fade. You could have sold the close, you could have sold the next day, and that's just a great trade. So I wish I could get all these numbers out on every market, and that's what I'm working on, because these are very powerful. And the community that I have been servicing and serving for 20 years have no idea what to do with this. Most of them are pie chart traders and using ETFs and things like that. Nothing wrong with that. They just don't have any use for this type of analytics. So I'm excited to see some of the activity that we've had around in the retail community, and a lot of you folks that are on here. So yeah, and I'll definitely do gold too, Kim. No problem. But yeah, so we'll. But anyway, so this stock here is now you can see the bands here on the daily. Okay, let me just put this up. This is very very powerful to have available. So here's the 70 to 58. It's a big band, but this is where this thing's going to stay in here, and these volatility bands are going to lock this down, just like it did in this previous section here. We actually closed above the extreme this day. We went sideways for 3 days, and then we exploded. Sometimes you don't get a lot of move, but there probably was a short-term trade there. So anyway, let's go on. Let's try to move through some stuff here. It's been about a half hour on all this stuff. Let's go to gold first. Gold, same thing. I'm just going to leave the trade grid up there. You can see it's locked in these bands as well. 1774, 1703. The 10 period moving average is coming in here. It's at 1729. And you got PPM1 over here on the far left, folks. 0.37, 0.18, basically 1.3. These are all positive numbers. There's a definitely an underlying uptrend. There's still a bid in this market. Looked like it was ready to break out the other day. You know, we get the close over 1737 was a pivot number that I talked about for a number of weeks on the channel. And now what we're seeing is that we're going sideways again. I'm going to put some Fibonacci projections up here. Now there's some minor projections above here. 1811, 1734, or 1834. That's your next level here on, this is a daily graph. So if we move this over and look at intermediate, there's no objectives there right now. So if we look at the ranges that are predicted for this week, for the weekly, we're looking at 1775, 1788 is R2, 1771, so we're just above R1. On the downside, we're looking at 27. The S2 was 24. So it's pretty good numbers. This is on a weekly range. So the way to continue, I just want to keep unpacking this, is that the way to keep this thing in perspective, when you see these numbers, I know I'm not putting this grid out on everything. I'll make sure that when I cover whatever I cover every night, that I have at least this tab open that I have right now, so you can see these numbers, and I'll try to focus on them, because there's a lot of good stuff until I can figure out how to distribute these numbers right now. Um, so anyway, that's the numbers there. We could take this out another level really quick. Look at the uh, monthly numbers right now. The grid is given 1775. Um, R2 is 1795. S1 1646. Low 1676. So we've traded between pretty much traded between S1 and R2. And I discussed this just to keep this going, is that these numbers, if you're in an uptrend, you're typically, if your bars and you're in what I call an acceleration phase, you're going to see, if it's an uptrend, it's going to be S1, R2 are going to be a typical number to hit no matter what the bar is. Now this is monthly, so these are big numbers. There's still, another week and change on this month to get through this. So, we'll see how this all plays out. But these numbers, like I said, can go to any level. So I could even downsize this thing down to a 60-minute graph, and we have those numbers available. So anyway, enough of that. Let's look at let's go from gold to Bitcoin. Bitcoin, actually, I've got some trade signals on here. It exited right here at, you're looking at the exit here. This thing is just hovering right above its, hang on, this is a 60-minute, that's why. Let's go to daily. So once again, here's the bands. There was a pretty nice trade here. Went long at 67.86 and sold up here at 87.15 was the last trade on Bitcoin. We're not really seeing much here, but there is some objectives here that I've talked to some people that are close to me. But the upward targets right now, you see some dots above the market here, above this the charts. 11,783, 13,160, and 14,000. Just rounding numbers off. So this pattern is generating some pretty bullish numbers, and I've been looking for this. I've been telling folks, if you could have bought Bitcoin under 6,000, under 5,000, it was a deal. So it's almost doubled since then, and now it looks like we could see 11,000. Now this is daily. We're going to go up to the weekly graph here, and this is an old calculation, but it was calculating 16.9 to all the way as high as 23.4, which would be an all-time new high. That pattern's been negated at the moment, so we'll be looking for a new pattern to kind of come in on a weekly. I don't think there's enough data on this platform to get to a monthly, but let me take this off. You can see once again, here was a close above the extreme, and we declined into the bottom, and typically on these bands, it'll move its way toward the bottom. Usually it's 2 to 3 bars. This is a longer term chart, so it's going to take a lot longer to get from there. So what else? Let's do Tesla. I'm just trying to run through a bunch of stuff. Tesla's kind of interesting right now. I've got it on a monthly. Look at these bands. 1194. Let me bring that up. Yeah, 1194, and on the bottom band 369. That's some crazy volatility. Let's get to a daily time frame. Just get back to reality. You see how this band is tightening up. This typically when you get a compression like this, the market, we're getting some new objectives here. Target on for Tesla 923 min. 984, 1022. So maybe that number on the chart we're just looking at isn't all that crazy. But this pattern is creating some upside targets, and PPMs are positive plus over here on the left, 0.39, 0.40 now, 0.79, and 0.13. This is an uptrend. Even though it looks flat, there's a nice, decent uptrend here, and the PPMs are pretty positive, which tells us that the upward slope is in place. All right. Just looking at a couple questions here, guys. Adam just made a comment to take a look at booking holding. Give me a symbol? I don't know a lot of these symbols, so you're gonna give me symbols when you ask the question. That's funny. You lie these targets. That is funny. Yeah. So So let's do. I'm just trying to look through here. A couple things here. We did gold. Yeah, let's do it. We haven't talked about this, and I haven't done this on the channel. Let's hit on the. Let's go to the Dower. I got a bunch of stuff on the screen here, but let's go to the intermediate Dower. Here it is again, folks. I'm telling you. Here's this close above, right here, the close above the extreme, and fades, and you see this big volatility spike here after that move, and it contracts back down. Market moves toward the lower end of the range ultimately. Matter of fact, right over here it hit the actual, it closed below the bottom of the range, but this is pretty tight. As far as the trends go in the Dower, I mean, this thing's getting pretty sketchy. This is a weekly. We do have a buy order on this bar right here, so it's currently long, but it's pretty sketchy right now. PPM1 is 0.03, PPM2 0.16, PPM3 0.07. So, and all these things are fading, so this is kind of ugly. Maybe this would be the reason why gold finally start to break out. That might be something good to look at here. All right, I'm going to jump around a little bit, go from the Dower. We're going to go to, this is the 10-year interest rates. We're back at 0.67. We did manage to move up just a little bit. We got up to 0.74. I talked about this, I think, last week, getting back up to 0.75. We're locked in this tight little range here that that you can see going on. So, those of you who've been following my work, just understand that when I'm talking about these ranges, this is where I come up with the ideas, and you can see they're pretty accurate in following whether it's markets moving down, where the support levels are, and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, so this locked in this range, I still think we can that the 10-year can start to move up above 0.8. I'm pretty convinced that the Fed does not want negative rates in this country. That would be a disaster. Imagine all of us having to pay our banks to store money. That would just be really crazy. What it forces you to do is to go spend the money. That's the point of it. And, I don't think they're going to go there. I think they realize how unhealthy that is, especially for our banking system is much different than European banking system, and how it's run, and how the capital is utilized, and now, and you folks may not remember, but we had the very first thing that the Fed did on that Sunday. They took rates to zero, and they also took away the reserve requirements of the bank. So basically all the deposits that you have on the books right now have absolutely zero um, money in the bank behind them. So what it does, it gives the banks the ability which to lever up. They don't have to have any. They don't have to have any deposit, any you know, any kind of collateral against what you put in the bank. So they can do basically whatever they want. They're not really lending that much right now, but they definitely have lots of leverage, no doubt. Okay, so let's take a look at. We gotta look at crude here. Just keep kind of pounding through. I am going to go to a daily chart on the crude. I want to make sure. I want to do something here. So, as crazy as things got, we get down to 650. We did get a buy right here on at 24 bucks. So now we're printing 32. So this is a market to keep an eye on. This is telling you a lot, I think, about how the economy is going to come back, maybe shifts in how people are going to be dealing with travel, what have you. I saw a couple articles, probably makes some sense, that going back to 1950s style to travel, which is road trips in the car with mom and dad and the kids. We used to call them FFTs, family fun trips. But the bottom line is this is a good sign that the economy's coming back on. We're seeing demand come back in to crude. This is going to solve a lot of issues in the oil patch, especially in West Texas. I've got a couple clients out in that area, and back when crude was 20, one of them was telling me that he knows folks that were, even when it was 20, they were selling stuff at 10 and sometimes as low as $6 back then. So that was the extreme. So I suspect that that whole underlying market has stabilized based on looking at least the near futures here. And we do have a bit of a contango going on here, but it's not something that this market always operates in that mode. So yeah, I'm just watching out of the corner of my eye. I'm seeing this S&P continuing to deteriorate. So that's interesting because depending on how we manage to close up today, if they take this thing down, I'm telling you that 200-day moving average. I'm switching around. Sorry, folks. We're going back to S&P here for a minute. But if this 200-day moving average is got to be taken out like now, pronto, and if it doesn't, it's going to be a problem. Now, I just clicked on industrials. It's interesting. Got a buy signal in the industrials. I don't really look at this index. It was an accidental hit. And so yeah, so we're continuing to fade. Now we're 55 on the S&P. I'm going to switch over to my day trading screen real quick here. I want to see what's going on here. You can. So I know we got saw some folks utilizing that were TradeStation users. There's a couple of things on here. There's some proprietary stuff. The first derivative stuff is on here. But everything else on this page is actually, if you guys will even text me on the channel or something, if you want my TSW file, if you want this set up like I have here to trade off of, this is pretty good. I'm trying to think if there's, yeah, you're not going to be able to get the indicators, these indicators here. But anyway, just contact me because this is a power screen. You can see once again how these bands are setting up. This is a 1 minute graph. this is the bid and ask on everything that's going on right now, and this is level two trading and time and sales. So this is a great setup. I've been using this screen for probably 10 years, maybe longer. Yeah, at least 10, maybe 11 years. But this is a nice setup for day trading. But I just wanted to see we're traded down to 55 here, and this is the other thing I want you folks to see. I'm going to go full screen on this thing, and what I want you to see here is um, watch it for a few minutes. You can see uh, these. This is the same volatility bands, and you can see them update real time. And we just saw an expansion in volatility here. And the other thing, at some stage, I'd like to, yeah, okay, so that's cool. Thanks for that. Is it JW? Yeah, so that I did forget the Fed minutes came out, so that's why they're selling them off. Yes, that makes total sense. Um, yeah, so FEPDX, if you go on the channel, there is an email. It's kendallreport.com. It's info@kendallreport.com. You can send that to me. We'll communicate and figure out how to do that. Um, anyway, but you can see these bands. They're going to update real time, and it's kind of fun to watch. Some of this stuff, the volume rate of change. There are there actually are uh, uh, four different proprietary stuff that's on this screen here, but you can see these dots. I'm telling you, the dots within the grid, the market grid, is so powerful, especially for trading and uh, any type of thing that you're doing. Um, okay, so let's see here. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Somebody was talking about Europe are working on hydrogen solutions for future vehicle. There was a book that was written called Natural Capitalism. It was written, I believe, in 1999. Uh, it's an old book, but it was basically a forward projection, and I was thinking about it the other day, uh, and it talked about hydrogen cars, and in fact, one of the things that's kind of this, like I said, was written in 2000. It almost perfectly it talked about cars that would be like a skateboard, and you'd be able to just strap bodies onto them, something like a Tesla, you know. So they actually there's some pretty uh, interesting futuristic type ideas in there, but it's natural capitalism. Don't remember the author right now. I'm sure it's on Amazon. I think it was written in 99, so it's an old book now, but I just was thinking about it the other day. There's some things coming out uh, that that are really starting to look a lot like the things they were talking about, and it's worth a read, I think. Nat gas. Let me see here if I have nat gas. Yeah, this thing is trying to set up a little mini bottom here, but we have PPMs are all pretty negative yet. I don't see this thing getting much above 209 or so. Um, not a lot there. PPMs are all negative. If you're short, I guess you could stay short, but it's trying to set up a bottom right here. This next couple bars are going to be pretty important. PPM one is turning up, a couple other things going on. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to grab at some of these questions here. Here we go at Kratos Defense Security. Actually have a buy signal on it right now. Sitting there right by the 200-day moving average, trying to move up. PPMs are all pretty positive, so pretty good trend. Targets, men's 1797, 2097 has been locked in this little tight range. So just start to see this thing. It's moving up toward the top end of the range right now. So uh, what will happen with the bands is they'll probably turn up tomorrow at this thing. It's up, what, 2.26%. Um, let's see here. Yeah, it's a soulmate. Interesting comment he was saying that you folks see on the timeline there. Hydrogen takes 5 minutes. At the same gas station in the UK, there is nowhere to plug the car in to charge. That's for sure. And you're running 220 lines or 240, whatever the voltage is as well. Yeah, I I'm not that convinced about electric cars. It really depends on where you are. There's still a lot of gas and coal fired areas, so you're not really um, um, yeah, you're not really running in green if you're doing that. But hydrogen makes total sense. I think there's some pretty cool stuff where they've got hydrogen plants right. They make it right where you are. So that's pretty cool. Um, so let's see if there's any other questions. So we're ending. We got about 5 more minutes to try to keep this thing to an hour. So if we can get a couple more questions, we can. I'd like to continue to answer that. Okay, Ed's asking about IWM. Matter of fact, that triggers me, and we'll probably finish here. So IWM, actually, this is daily, got a buy. Let me look at the weekly because you really, um, this is an interesting pattern. Everything's hovering under the 200-day, but just like in the S&P, you see the PPM1 is just exploding up 1.2. There's still a lot of pressure right above the markets, right above this market at the pressure above this market is 139.90, so about six bucks up from here. Uh, it's acting pretty good today, to say the least. And what this kind of triggers me on though, is to bring up these charts right here. This is a small cap versus the S&P spread, and yeah, we'll do Apple and silver. Yeah, thanks guys. Um, yeah, so this spread is the long IJR, which is the small cap, versus the S&P, and this is a short-term chart or daily chart. And when we look over at this chart and bring this one up, this is longer term. This thing has tried to bottom like 4 times, and I will say this: if we're going to have uh, another bull market, then it's going to have to come with the small caps leading the way. And I don't know with what's just happened to the economy is if the smaller companies, how they're going to fare here. It looks like, once again, the big guys are getting all the benefits in the markets, from access to capital to everything else. It's going to be it's going to be interesting to see all these trillions of dollars that the Fed and the governments are throwing out. Who actually ends up with those dollars? And that's a little early. Right now, this is at least looking like, probably the fourth time it looks like it's bottoming here. We'll see how that goes. Let's take a look. I've got a question on, I think, silver. Yeah, Thomas Tran, small caps are ready. They're looking like they're getting there. I would not argue that, and we'll just have to see how some of this stuff plays out in the economy. Okay, so let's do silver. Interesting. Silver got a buy today. On I'm sorry, that's for Monday. Let me go to daily. Silver got a buy 4 days ago, and at 1707. So it's definitely looking pretty good. You got 1.91, 0.95, and 0.59 ppm 1, 2, and 3. So this is a pretty positive situation as far as this thing looks. We're breaking above the 200-day moving average. This thing's been a big laggard. Let's go to the weekly graph here real quick. And weekly, you'll see, got a buy on Monday. So this is looking pretty good, but we do have some resistance overhead with these bands above there. But 2.25, this thing looks explosive. Um, Let me just, yeah, there's no Fibonacci projections just yet, but this thing's pretty explosive. I like this. I like the metals a lot anyway, because I think, you talked about earlier on, gold looking at, 1835 men, and there's much higher numbers on the longer term stuff. So the metals just look really, really good here. And whether it's the dollar's going to weaken, whether it's just a hedge against inflation, all kinds of stuff, there have been some things um, that have been out there. I'm sure you folks have seen the reports of the dealer markets versus everything else. Yeah, I'm going to keep going since I missed last night. I owe you guys from missing last night. I'm going to go from silver here, and we're going to the VIX. VIX had a buy. Did a video on that 4 days ago. It is now exited. It's in a neutral position. There's no position here. It's pretty negative. Um, it's at 28. It's right at the bottom end of the range. So, we could see it move back down toward there. If I can't expand this real good, let me try something here. See if I can get this to go. Yeah, you really can't see it well, but there are some downward projections for the VIX to continue toward around 23. So there is a downward projection on the VIX to go to 23, and all right, I'm just looking at a couple last thing. Um, Adam, I'm doing BKNG. Got a buy 3 days ago on this one, heading up towards this 200-day moving average. PPMs, you can see them on the left-hand side. These are These are bullish. This is a bullish trend. The underlying bid is pretty strong underneath this market, and probably going to go up and challenge the 200-day. And I would be willing to bet, folks, that we could go through virtually 1,000 stock charts, and we would see a very similar pattern unfolding. We would see everything's just under its 200-day. There's just a whole lot of stuff that's just sitting here trying to figure out whether it wants to move higher or not, and whether we're going to be able to break this market out. I know fundamentally, if you sit there and you think for a minute, you look around what's going on, it doesn't make sense. But from a fundamental or at least economic viewpoint, but always one to remind that the economy and the markets are different, and there is a bit of forward looking going on, and that's what we're seeing across the board. Folks, hey, listen, most of us on this thing, a lot of us Americans, we're always optimistic, always think we can win, do whatever, and that's how we think, and that's a good thing. So like I said, I hope all this stimulus, everything they're doing, bails this thing out, and I just hope we don't end up with something that doesn't make something worse than what we started with. Yeah, so Berkshire, somebody asked about BRAK. Hate this thing. Not a Warren Buffett fan. Um, I was talking, this is an interesting story. Um, that a buddy of mine in institutional trader that I've known for a long time did tell me the reason why Warren Buffett sold his airlines. As the rumor was, he was trying to get a super secret bond deal like he did on Goldman Sachs and Bank of America back in 2008, because he's got 138 billion in cash, and basically the Treasury and other folks told him to go pound it. They don't need his money. They've already raised 2.2 trillion, and then the Fed's money, so they didn't need his money. So he took his marbles and went home and sold out of the airlines. As a matter of fact, that's something we should look at here real quick. Let's go to Delta. This is a weekly basis. These things are really close to major buys. People are going to travel again, so it's just a matter of who's going to win. I don't think there's necessarily a bull market in these stocks, but there's definitely something here. ALK. Yeah, these are bullish patterns, folks. I'm telling you. Buffett sold the whole. We used to talk about on the trading floor, like, don't sell the whole. When you sell these stocks, they've already been hammered. These things are going to move. Look at these. PPM1 is spiking through its first, second derivatives. And these are weekly graphs. So this is Hawaiian Airlines. I've got a list of them here. Look at American. Yeah, these are just really bullish patterns. And bullish, not saying they're going to bull market, but these things are going to, something like this, it's going to go 980 to, $13, $15. It's going to rally back and maybe go back let's just do some Fibonacci retracements on this thing. Let's just do this last sequence down just to see what this stuff looks like. Yeah, so you're looking at $16, 0.38, 0.5 is 19. So you'll get back to 0.3, 13 to 16. This is no problem. So there's some really good trades, probably some good option trades down in here. Maybe do some call spreads, some things like that could be really, really good. Now let's just put, we'll do, yeah, see, all these companies look the same. All these these things look the same. Like even there's um, save. We'll do. Yeah, see, to me, I'm just looking at this. I'm seeing these are all weekly charts we're looking at. Let's flip over to dailies. I'm going to run back through these real quick. Yeah, so got a buy here on Sky 3 days ago. Let's put Delta back up. Got a buy yesterday on Delta. American, same thing yesterday. Um, 2 days ago on HA, on Hawaiian. So all these things are coming back into play. And um, even I just put Love up, American or Southwest got to buy 2 days ago. So like I said, I had a bunch of people tell me how good Warren Buffett is. Warren Buffett hasn't done a good trade in so long, other than he bought Apple, but who didn't buy Apple? And I'm glad I said that. So let's do Apple. I'm just going to keep going here for a few minutes, guys. We're running over, but um, but just a real quick comment. Buffett does a lot of illegal trading. In that, in 2016, he bought Apple, and then in 2019, he goes and spends 4 days on the Apple campus with Tim Cook, buys a shit ton of stock, and then goes on and talks with his girlfriend on CNBC, that Becky girl that always interviews after his annual thing, and tells the world he just bought a bunch of Apple. It's self-promotion. He had inside information, sitting with the CEO of Apple, buys a bunch of stock, and then comes out, tells everybody, pumps it up. Uh, uh, and, so I'm not a fan. You guys will figure that out pretty quick. Anyway, but Apple itself, we get some I left the Fibonacci projections up here, so I'm going to bring up, you can see the bands, 318, where we're trading right now. Let me put up a couple grids here. I want to get rid of something. 1 second. So, yeah, you can see on the grid here, we're looking at targets, high target 316. We've hit that number. Next, oh wait, this is the daily range. So let's look at the high 318.52. Look at R2 so far today, 318.65. The low was 1301. 1321 was S1. So I told you guys earlier, you got an uptrend stock, S1, R2 are your numbers. Here it is, almost perfect hit. 21 was the number. We hit 14. The R2 number was 318.65. The high's 52. So pretty nice hit. That's a $5 trade in Apple. Okay, so folks, if you do want to email me, I'll try to do my best because we've been getting a lot of responses on stuff, and we're working on a project. You guys are gonna be really excited about as soon as we're ready to release this thing. But but on the channel, I'll put it out there. It's fine. It's info@kendallreport.com, and that'll get you to me. Yeah, and Thomas Tran, you're absolutely right. Buffett has been friends with every administration going back 30 years, maybe longer. He's done sweetheart deals one after another. Who couldn't make a lot of money if you had the backing of the U.S. government? I mean, he's been, yeah. I have to be nice. I'm going to keep this thing pretty clean. But he is absolutely has had lots of insider information. I actually think he's probably one of the biggest sleazeballs on Wall Street. So anyway, I said it. Anyway, you know, there was a time, you know, and listen, I've been around a long time. I watched this guy for a long time. I watched him do some of the worst trades known to man. But, you know, when you can buy a company, that's, you know, he just stopped trading and just started buying companies. So, you know, he became a conglomerate. So I don't even really, no one can really invest like Warren. That's why he tells all, when he talks to somebody, he tells them, oh, you should just buy index funds, you know, whatever. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, let's see here. Anyway, I think there's one last here. Let me just see if I can bring this one up. Yeah, Chesapeake. We'll do that. We're going to finish on this one. So we went over about 15 minutes, but since I didn't do a video, and it kind of triggered me with what happened last night and not doing a video. You guys, give me your opinion. Those of you subscribers to the channel, to what would you think about is, because what happens to me on my workload, Tuesday night I do a video, then I do a live stream on Wednesday, then I do another video. I do 3 videos in 24 hours. I was thinking about this morning, but give me your comments for those of you that are on, is, you know, what would you think about that being a pattern where we do a live stream on Wednesday, then I do Wednesday night, Thursday night. That gives me a break on Tuesday night midweek. So anyway, think about it. I'll put that out again. Let's see here. Yep. All right. So I'm going to do Qualcomm. Qualcomm got actually a buy this morning on the open. It was long over here. It went long on 326, which was similar. It actually got out 2 days ago on 514, and now it's re-entered another trade. And this could be the scenario that ends up happening on the S&P as well, is that we end up getting a re-entry on the S&P. And then, and what you folks will see from me always is that the models, I didn't bring up our database today, but all of that stuff drives my opinions. That drives my analysis. So anyway, that is, I think we're going to call it quits. Thanks for hanging around, man. This is really good. Had a couple of super chats. Appreciate the support as always. And, you know, I'll be doing a video tonight. I'm not going to eat what I had last night. We'll see how it goes, man. Really apologize for that. Anyway, have a great rest of the day trading, and we will see you on the videos tonight. Thanks again. Don't forget to share the videos, like these things, and let's build this channel up. All right? Thanks a lot. See you.